Why, hello, YouTubes, the internet. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com. If you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the little bell. That way YouTube will pretend to notify you when we go live and drop new videos, because you're going to need this information to navigate this screwy, messed up world in the days ahead. If you're not new here, go ahead and subscribe and or go ahead and share this with somebody who needs to see it. Please excuse me. I'm a little special this morning. Been dealing with some sickness, and I'm in a different frame of mind than usual. So, subscribe and share. That helps us in our ongoing battle against the YouTube algorithmic robots. Brief. 18JUL220. Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota and Congressman Mike Johnson of Louisiana, where they eat bugs, are co-sponsoring the Unborn Child Support Act, a pro-life bill, air quote, that would provide child support for pregnant women. Cramer has introduced this bill back in 2020, but it's seeing light again after the Supreme Court's rescinding of Roe v. Wade. The bill would put into the Social Security Act that child support funds could be collected retroactively, and that, quote, the start date for such obligations may begin with the first month in which the child was conceived, as determined by a physician, and shall begin with that month if the mother so requests, end quote. Senator Cramer, which is an unfortunate name for politics. I don't take politicians seriously anyway, but the fact that you're named after some schmuck on the Seinfeld show is not helpful. Senator Cramer stated that since life begins at conception, quote, mothers should be able to access child support payments as soon as she is supporting a child, end quote. And I have some thoughts on this. We're going to get to this in a moment. Since the issues in Roe v. Wade were pushed to the states, many detractors have complained that the Republican Party would never make practical moves to provide for the unwanted children being birthed into situations which often cannot afford to care for them. If you don't want unwanted children, don't have unprotected sex, asshole. This is basic stuff. Murder is not contraception. Children are not a burden, they are a blessing. And if you don't get that, maybe you're the problem. Sorry, did I just emote violently? I apologize. Robot mode. Since the issues in Roe v. Wade were pushed to the states, oh, by the way, I know a lot of y'all let your children watch the show. Be advised, today's probably going to be at least a PG-13 episode. So, go where the spirit leads. If successful, this would be one small legal step towards providing some care for mothers that would otherwise get an abortion. However, in reality, poor fathers are often incarcerated for non-payment of child support or have their incarceration extended for not paying while already in prison. In short, the system is a mess, and this legislation would not help in every case, and it certainly falls far short of any guarantee of adequate care for the child to adulthood. In other words, the government's not your daddy. Now, there are some really, really shitty daddies out there. And there are some really, really shitty mommies, too. And it's an absolute shame that bad things happen to good people. And it's infuriating that good things happen to bad people. If you're one of those people that bad things are happening to you or have happened to you, the thing that we all have to remember is that we were fearfully and wonderfully made for this time. And the Father will see you through it to build a testimony in you that will allow you to reach 1 more, 10 more, 100 more, 1,000 more, 1,000,000 more people for Him. And He will reveal to you His grace and His mercy and His love and His provision and His protection and His blessing, if you simply call out His name and rely on Him. Even Sodom and Gomorrah, the prayers of the righteous had to stack up to the heavens for the Father to come down and inspect this situation before he sent an angel of destruction to put some warheads on foreheads. But the point here is the government's not your daddy. Now, the argument here seems to be, well, if we're not going to be murdering all of these unborn children, how are we going to take care of them? Oh, you mean the nuclear family? Is that what we mean? Like, you as a man have a responsibility for the provision, protection, blessing of your household? You as a mother have a responsibility, as a young woman or an older woman have a responsibility to keep your legs closed unless you're in a committed relationship that will result in offspring that can be raised up properly in the way that they should go so they do not depart from it when they are older. We have a heart condition, not a political problem. We have a heart condition. We kill the unborn as contraception. And then now that we can't do that, we have to add even more of a burden to the Social Security Administration because, you know, that's doing great. It's flush with money. And gosh dang, the big they do such a good job at stewarding all of those resources that come out of your paycheck every week. The spirit of the bill. I almost agree with it. We need a way to hold deadbeat dads accountable. Yeah. You know the way we do that around here? Not that we have any deadbeat dads. We don't. Praise Yah. But accountability comes from your community. Pressure and accountability. Hey, if you don't act right, your brother's going to come rebuke you and say, yeah, hey, you're out of line. You need to fix that. Not the county constable or the sheriffs or the police department or CPS or DHS or FBI or whatever, pick a 3-letter, alphabet soup agency. Nope. Us. Pressure and accountability. Love your neighbor as yourself, because sometimes loving your neighbor means saying difficult things to them. Hey, I noticed your kid doesn't have shoes and hasn't had shoes for months. You gonna buy them some shoes? Because see, you might call CPS on them because their kids don't have shoes and find out they don't have any freaking money. Well, you're gulping down your caramel macchiatos and your blueberry scone every day. You could have bought some shoes for your neighbor because they're in a hard spot. But instead of having a conversation with somebody, you picked up the phone or sent an email or dropped a dime on somebody because they really need to take care of those kids. Well, you're commanded to love both your brother and your neighbor. So, pressure and accountability. We have a heart problem. We have a systemic heart condition. That's the problem with society. We can't kill babies anymore, so now we have the burden of these children, so we need to put legislation in place to provide for the burden of these children so that the mother doesn't have to deal with the burden of these children. Children are a blessing. They are among the greatest of the mitzvot, the good things that one can do in life. It's disgusting to me that we are here at this point. This is the society you want to play in. This is the society you want to whore with. This is what you want to be a part of. You want to pour your blood, sweat, and tears into a society that requires federal legislation to provide for children because we couldn't murder them. You gotta be effing kidding me. Well, Bear, we got to do something. Yeah, you do. You see evil, deal with it. That's what you got to do. Don't farm that out to the lowest bidder. Kick it up the chain of command. Deal with it. Personal responsibility. Extreme ownership. Go read Jocko's book. Extreme ownership. Go read God's book, the Bible. Extreme ownership. Deal with the problem. Quit farming it out, making it somebody else's problem. Oh, we'll pass a federal law for 340 million people that exacerbates the issue. And you know what's going to happen when you pass a federal law? Two things. The first is criminals be criminals, yo. They don't care about your laws. If they cared about your laws, they wouldn't be criminals in the first place. So if you're dealing with deadbeats, likelihood of extracting capital from deadbeats, pretty low. Which means that now your taxpayer dollars are not only paying for the Social Security Administration to administer those funds, but they're also paying for the penitentiary that's going to be housing this scumbag for who knows how long. That sounds like a win. Or smart scumbags will figure out a way to circumvent the system. So some assholes in suits in DC have to do the job that we should all be doing at the local level. That's maybe the dumbest shit I've heard in a week or two. Not a fan, in case you haven't figured that out by now. In international news, Bulgaria and North Macedonia have signed a deal that will clear the way for the Estados Unidos, the EU, the European Union. Clear the way for EU members talks. Previously, Bulgaria had blocked progress because of disputes between the two countries, but they have now reached an agreement that could potentially expand the EU further. This is, of course, specifically because of the threat from the East that continues to loom in Europe's backyard. The EU is almost entirely an economic agreement, an economic coalition. There's some chatter about military forces, but it's almost entirely economic. It's interesting that globalization is failing. We see this, right? Like, how's Made in China working out right now? Not so good. Not so good. There's massive efforts to nearshore, which is a fancy term for getting your manufacturing out of China to a nearer shore, which in many cases just becomes other Southeastern Asian countries, Vietnam, Taiwan. That's part of why China wants Taiwan. They want to assimilate Taiwan's economy back into the Chinese economy. They need the shot in the arm. India, Philippines. There's lots of other Southeastern Asian countries that are manufacturing stuff. China, a little difficult to do business with since roughly February of 2019. I don't know why. Some people got a cough or something, and then the whole world ended, apparently. And for all the people who have completely unadjusted their OODA loop, your diopter is out of focus, bro. Well, when SHTF kicks off, where the hell have you been the last 3 years? When it kicks off, what do you want? Do you want your neighbor to come across the street and punch you in the face on your doorstep? Is that the signal you need to consider it SHTF? Are you that narrow-focused and short-sighted? Like, look at the indicators, bro. It's been SHTFing for about the last 3 years. It's like you're standing in your yard and getting poured rain on, and you're like, well, when the storm starts, what we're going to do is we're going to build a poncho shelter so we can get out of the rain. It's like, bro, you're soaking wet because it's been raining for 3 years, and you're standing in the yard talking about when the big storm hits. It's like, you might want to do some stuff to deal with the fact that it's raining now. Yeah, it'll probably be raining more. At some point, biblically, 100-pound hail is going to be falling from the sky, and your poncho shelter is not going to work so good for that. But right now, it's raining. You might want to do something, like get a fire started, get out of those wet clothes, change your socks, powder your feet, that kind of stuff, dry your boots off. Well, when SHTF hits, you just self-selected out of the Bear Nation, if that's your mindset. Okay, so the EU is economic primarily in nature, which gets back to nearshoring versus globalization. Globalization is failing, which is why you see more regionalization, which is the first indicator of balkanization. When people start shifting their focus and their resources back to a regional stature rather than an international stature, Homemade gummy bears. It's a strong indicator. And so you see that happening here in Europe and the energy crisis as well. Lots of people talking about, it's going to be a cold, dark winter. Yeah, because that's how winters are, bro. They have been since like the dawn of time. They're cold and they're dark. That's how that shit works. So I have no patience for stupidity today. It's going to be a cold, dark winter. Yeah, especially if there's no gas in Europe. Almost as if the morons who were in charge of driving that particular bus over there should have made sure that they had access to energy, reliable energy. That's what we call resilience. And we've talked about ad nauseum the inability to resist if you don't have resilience. And they don't have resilience, which means they can't affect resistance, which means what? Russia has them by the balls. And see, Russia's not going to stop in Ukraine. They're going through Ukraine, and they're gonna eventually, long-term strategically, their plans are, we think, asterisk, caveat, go all the way through Ukraine so that they can maintain Ukraine as a buffer zone because they don't like NATO on their doorstep. And a lot of people have pointed out, well, if they take Ukraine, they will have NATO on their doorstep. No, they will have NATO on Ukraine's doorstep. And as we've seen so far, navigating all the way across Ukraine, approximately the size of Texas, in order to affect third-generation ground warfare is kind of a thing. It's apparently a little difficult. So if now Russia has to force their enemies to advance across that same territory and deal with the same set of circumstances that's causing Russia to have issues, it's a win for Russia. See, Russia views NATO and NATO expansion as an existential threat to their existence. If they fail now, they fail forever. And they're also, anecdotally, super happy to sell as much overpriced energy to Europe as possible while also putting them in a triangle choke. It's like they have them in a triangle choke and they're holding the oxygen mask. Which one you want? Yeah. Because a bunch of people, again, let's bring it back around, because a bunch of people in suits and wingtip shoes with really nice hair and no facial hair decided that we're just going to all play super nice with each other and maybe we can just talk this thing out. Not so much. It's called soft power. Soft power is nice. The ability to wield influence and to have some type of control and to build networks and all that's important. That's soft power. But Russia has soft power and hard power. Hard power is warheads on foreheads and copper and lead going at very high velocities into very soft targets. That's hard power. And you need both, because where one fails, the other can only get the job done, right? Otherwise, you have you've created a vacuum in the sphere of power, and nature abhors void. Well, Europe has created a vacuum in their ability to project hard power. There's some good groups out there in the European military. European SOF has come a long way in the last couple of decades. But large-scale conventional ground warfare, not so much. And what is European SOF going to do? Stay behind efforts, resistance, when the Russian Red Army rolls through Europe? Bear, are you saying that there's going to be global war in Europe? Yeah, potentially. I've been saying that for months. It's a possibility. Is it a probability? Depends. Met TC, bro. Do your homework. At a recent energy conference, it was made clear that Europe is facing a really tough winter and energy prices are only expected to rise significantly. Ofgem, the energy regulator of Great Britain, warned earlier this week that domestic energy bills would be increasing faster this winter than previously expected. Future energy rationing is becoming more and more likely as the situation continues to worsen. There's a couple of key words in there you should think about. Ofgem, the energy regulator of Great Britain. See, utilities are regulated. Public utilities are regulated. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Google, if you want to see what it looks like when they're not and what that process is, Google that divestiture of the Bell system or DuckDuckGo or whatever. I don't care. Do your research. Divestiture of the Bell system, Bell Atlantic, Bell South, whatever, right? But utilities are regulated. There will be more of that because there will be a lower supply and a higher demand. So that's even more governmental oversight from the same assholes in suits that are doing a great job of smashing the plane into the side of the mountain, metaphorically, right now, of driving the bus through every ditch that we have, and then complaining that the ride is bumpy and somebody should do something about it. It's like, asshole, you're the one driving. You're the one that keeps slamming us into ditches and trees, and the wheels are falling off, and I'm pretty sure the engine compartment is on fire, and none of the turn signals work, and there's no seat belts on the seats, and the fire extinguisher's on empty, and there's 3 old Band-Aids in the first aid kit, and you're the one like, yeah, you know, don't worry, we're excellent at driving. If you just give us more money, we'll be even better at driving. And it's like, yeah, dude, but the school bus is on fire. No. Pay no attention to the smoke. Don't worry about it. We're excellent at driving. And that other guy who was the driver, you should totally hate his guts. He's the reason that the school bus is on fire and there's no charge in the fire extinguisher and there's only 3 Band-Aids in the first aid kit and all the wheels are going flat and the wheel hubs are jank and the catalytic converter fell off. He's the reason. I'm a better driver, and if you vote for me and all my friends who are really good at driving and give us all of your money and therefore give us all of that authority and influence over you, we'll drive the bus even better. It's like, yeah, how about instead I get off at the next stop? How's that sound? I don't want to be on the bus because it's on fire and there's no seatbelts and the, emergency escape hatches have been welded shut. I'm not really interested in that because the bus should drive on the road. The wheels on the bus go round and round unless they're in a ditch and the bus is on fire. So tyranny actual is the point of that metaphor. The distribution of utilities is already controlled and has been controlled for decades and is going to become more and more and more controlled because the supply is decreasing. That's intentional. Thank you, globalists. The people who are turning the frickin' frogs gay. The supply is dwindling intentionally and the demand is increasing because so's population, so's economic development around the world, and so is panic buying. Let's be frank. Anybody fill gas cans lately? Because what happens when the blah, blah, blah? Exactly. I know. Back to the report. Bippity boppity boo. Ofgem, the energy regulator of Great Britain, warned earlier this week that domestic energy bills would be increasing faster this winter than previously expected. Future energy rationing is becoming more and more likely as the situation continues to worsen. But that's next winter. What about this summer? Currently, firefighters are struggling to contain the wildfires in Spain and France in the midst of both drought and the extreme heat wave that has bloomed across Europe. That extreme heat, roughly 104 degrees Fahrenheit predicted in some areas, that's the high for today where I am here, is expected to lead to many deaths, particularly in the elderly. In Spain alone, at least 360 people died from high temperatures last week. In countries like Britain, homes are often not adequately insulated, and air conditioning has long been considered unnecessary in such a traditionally mild climate. So this isn't a matter of simply staying indoors with the AC cranked. For many, their homes will become deadly hot. Improvise, adapt, overcome, acclimate. I know, it's tough. My mind goes a lot of places with this. It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't have the hard currency, the resources in that regard to, like, get a mini split and install it on grandma's old cottage in Sussex, right? I get it. You don't have the resources to do that. But you can also probably dampen a rag and put it on your head and deal with evaporative cooling. You can get up earlier and work before the sun is high in the sky, which is what I do. I get up super early. I've already been out rucking today, chores, the whole nine. Sun hasn't even made it up above my pine trees yet. And when it gets hot, I'm going to not be in the sun. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to not be in the sun. Then when it starts to cool off again, I'm going to do the rest of the things that I got to do outside. But I also stay outside almost all day, all the time. I typically go inside to do a couple of things during the day, to eat and to use the restroom. That's it. Other than that, I'm outside. And so it's going to be 104 today. And because I'm not in the 68 degree, climate controlled, perfect humidity house, I'm more concerned about the temperature and humidity inside of my humidor than I am inside of my house, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not inside all day. So I could deal with the heat and the humidity outside because my body has acclimated to it. And there's something to that, which is why I'm bringing it up to you. It's something you should consider, is acclimation. There's talk of this weather pattern that we're in being a 20-year drought. You might want to acclimate. And we just talked about rationing of utilities, of energy, which means even if you do get the mini split installed on grandma's cottage in Sussex, are you going to have the power to even run it? Now, for those of you that do have disposable resources, man, solar, small-scale solar and wind, they're your friends. Buy all the batteries right now. Lithium ion, China, bad, nearshoring, supply chains, figure that out. Now, today, probably a good idea if you have the resources. If you got money sitting in a 401k and the stock market is trying to figure out which tall building it's going to jump off of because it's had enough. Like, you can't do it anymore. The Fed is afraid to say the word recession. That's probably an indicator, right? You do you. I am in no way an investment professional. I would much rather have tangible assets than ones and zeros in a digital wallet somewhere or on a bank account, or even little rectangles of green paper with dead assholes' faces printed on them. I think I'd rather have some lithium ion batteries and some diesel fuel put up and a handful of other things, water storage, a nice mini split to, keep the cottage cool, pallets of water, etc. So things to think about. If you don't have the resources, acclimate, figure it out, or maybe pool your resources with other people. Getting back to community, pool your resources with other people. If you do have the resources to make moves and you're not making moves, I think you are certifiably batshit crazy at this point. If you have the resources to make moves and you're not. There's a book that I read that was written by God that says you will reap what you sow. And if you're not sowing seeds of resilience and resistance and self-reliance right now, what do you think you're going to be reaping at harvest time? You're going to be on the bus when the bus is on fire. I don't know why the bus is on fire. We elected a new driver, and he's such a good driver. He has an excellent driving record. And he said all of his friends were going to change the tires and, put new coolant in the radiator and, clean some of the windows and update that, escape hatch sticker on the side of the thing. And yeah, but the bus is on fire. It's up to you. It's up to you. Vehicle fires are no shit. You shouldn't be in them. Shouldn't be anywhere near them. You get people out of burning vehicles as fast as you can. The bus is on fire, y'all. Get off the damn bus. If you're on Patreon, you have links to all of the shenaniganery that I just discussed. If you're not, you don't. There's a link in the description of every video and live stream that takes you to Patreon. It's $5 a month, 5 entire pretend made up fake little green rectangles per month. That's a single can of Skull. That's like what, 3 White Claws, 1 caramel macchiato, 3 9mm hollow points, the good ones. You know, it's not that big of a deal. It's $5 per month, and you still got 2 weeks in the month left. Patreon, that's where all the real content is. That's where all the good stuff is. We recently discussed on Patreon group SOPs for your group, your mutual assistance group, and we just this morning discussed coming out of Her My People. What do I take? What do I not take? And also kind of like prepper investment strategy. What are the things right now that are worth buying? What are the things not worth buying right now? So if you're interested in all of that, you can check that out. Well, I appreciate you, patrons. Thank you for being the economic engine of the Bear Show. Not only could I not do this without you, I would not do this without you. And so you guys are the ones that are making sure the Bear Bus is not on fire and that there is air pressure in the wheels and that we passed all of our safety checks. So thank you. Now, if you don't like it when I talk about how to support this free show, this is your opportunity to go ahead and sneak out the side door before catching my ire and displeasure. So beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Okay? Okay. Shalom. Peace. Leave. We still have a live stream? We have a live stream. There's 1,600 of you people on here. Y'all are crazy. Good morning, Josephine. Look at Josephine. Josephine's so nice. She's waving hi to the people in the chat. That's awesome. Good morning, Josephine. RefugeMedical.com. Do you have air in your lungs? Do you have blood inside of your body? Would you like to keep it that way? Are you currently alive? If some of you are like, I'm not sure, Bear, I don't know. Like, more sleep, better PT, better chow, maybe a Jocko. If you're certain you're alive and you'd like to stay that way, I would recommend. Now, truth in advertising, I am the founder and CEO of Refuge Medical. I am not only the owner, but I'm also a client, like Hair Club for Men. That's right. That's right. I would strongly recommend that you purchase a fine, handcrafted, made in America, guaranteed forever, first aid kit from RefugeMedical.com. It's on 4 continents with all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces electively. What that means is that the U.S. government sends our boys and girls overseas with an absolute bullshit individual first aid kit. And they don't want to die. And their loved ones don't want them to die either. And so instead of their issued gear, they buy them this, which is the BearFac 3.0 from Refuge Medical. Because this kit was purpose built to make sure that people who have blood inside their body and air in their lungs don't die. And believe it or not, 100 people, 1/2 of 100 people, that's 50 for those of y'all who aren't quite fully caffeinated yet, 50 people are still alive because our badass team of Americans showed up to work and put these kits together for you. Now, the other things that you should note about this kit right here, forget the fact that it's purpose-built to work the entirety of the March algorithm, which is massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and everything else. Forget that. None of that matters. What you really need to know is that if you throw this in your washing machine with all of your dirty laundry, it will make your whites whiter and your brights brighter, and it will get those hard-to-release stains out, no questions asked. If your toddler spills something on your couch, this will soak up 8 times its own weight in apple juice out of the couch cushions. It's tremendous. If you rub it on your bald spot, your hair will grow back. And if you rub it down below, that's right. Rock solid. That's right. No more little blue pills. This thing's phenomenal. Some of these claims have not been tested in a scientific manner, but whatever. Also, if you heat it up to 400 degrees, you can fry an egg on the back of it with no oil or fat whatsoever. So that's great if you're on a low-fat, high-protein diet right there. It works really, really well. And if you sniff cocaine on airplanes because your name is Billy Mays, this is the first aid kit for you. The way this works, you pop this open, pull the inner pouch out, boom, purpose-built first aid kit. This is available at refugemedical.com. They're in stock, they're shipping quick. We also have the SOB, or the small of the back kit, in stock at refugemedical.com. Your promo code is Bear Nation, which gets you free shipping on everything in the store. If you're on Patreon, you've got your own code for a percentage off on the sale. And we appreciate y'all very much. I'm also happy to announce that we are no longer shipping with UPS because UPS has decided that they don't like the Second Amendment. And I very much so like the Second Amendment, not because I'm some wannabe Instagram hoe, gun-toting YouTuber asshole that's all about the gun culture, but because I understand they are weapons of war, and without the threat of war, you will get tyranny. So, UPS, to the men and women in the brown uniform driving the big rectangular truck, I'm sorry for you. I would love for you to continue to get our business. I don't want to take money out of your paycheck, but I will not support the corporate monster that is Big Brown. Not interested if y'all won't support us. And so you don't get another dime of my business at Refuge Medical, UPS, until you fix yourself, and then I'll consider it. Refuge training. Listen, if you want to not die, you should go to class. It's as simple as that. Or don't. Or just die, when you're in a motor vehicle accident, or cut yourself with a chainsaw or a circular saw, or get shot at, stabbed, blown up, fall off a ladder, all those things. Refugetraining.com is the place where you learn how to not die. These are in-person classes. If you want digital content, it's free here on Bear Independent. Search the Trauma Medicine series here on Bear Independent. I've been instructing you with information for free here on YouTube, so go watch those videos. You need to know how to do it with your hands. It's called automaticity, which means you can do it without thinking about it, which I almost have the automaticity to say the word automaticity. Not there yet, right? But repetitions, reps and sets. So refugetraining.com is where you go to learn how to not die. If you're your standard run-of-the-mill civilian who's like, why do I need to know this stuff? If you come to Responder 1 and Responder 2, which is one day of class, Responder 1 in the morning, Responder 2 in the afternoon, you will leave that day knowing how to deal with massive bleeding using tourniquets, pressure bandages, hemostatics, and wound packing gauze, airway, using nasopharyngeal airways, recovery positions, chin lift and jaw thrust methods, etc. Respiratory distress, including signs of respiratory distress, tension pneumothorax, open and closed pneumothorax, etc. Circulation, how to check for circulation, how to check pulses, where pulses are, and indicators of poor circulation, what that means, how to deal with it. Head injury and hypothermia, this is the March algorithm. How to deal with hypothermia, which is super important because it's one third of the lethal triad, which is coagulopathy, acidosis, and hypothermia, all of which are related to blood loss, which is why M in March algorithm starts with massive bleeding, because we want to deal with that first, right? So hypothermia and everything else, which is how to call in 911 or call in a 9 line and maintain situational awareness, and how to move casualties, and how to this and how to that and all that stuff, and how to do CPR, which as a civilian is super important, most likely thing you're probably going to need, how to do CPR, and how to use an AED, right? The clear ka-chunk, how to use an AED, and you will have an intro to scenario-based training doing working a motor vehicle wreck with crisis actors in a day. Tell me that's not applicable to civilian life. Yeah, that's why you need to go to class. In one day, we will force the fire hose down your face of information. Refugetraining.com. Check us out. Lastly, I want to thank personally every single one of you that supports Grindstone Ministries. We could not do this without you. We are continuously working on Caleb House, and Caleb House is our restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors and victims of sexual assault. And that process is ongoing, and we could not do it without you, as well as we have several cases that we're currently working, and we're doing advocacy for those cases as well as rehabilitation for those cases. We also have some construction projects coming up with other ministries, partnering with them on the Grindstone side, and we just couldn't do it without you. So you are truly a badass, and I am truly thankful for you, and I just wanted to pour out my heart to you and say thank you, because our efforts would be dead in the water if it wasn't for you. Now, the Father's will prevail, and we firmly believe that we are doing the Father's will, but you get to partner in the Father's will with us when you help us do what we do. And oftentimes, that looks like prayer, and we need them, and I am thankful for them. We need those prayers. We need prayers for healing and for hope and for provision and for protection and for blessing, and that the Father will restore these people. We need all that. We need rectangular little pieces of green paper with assholes' pictures on them. We need that too. And we need volunteers for construction efforts. And we need construction materials. And we need tradesmen. And we need everything. But we couldn't do it without you, and we wouldn't be where we are without you. So from the bottom of my heart to you, thank you for supporting what we do. With that, y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.